here a little bit. Let's go back to tonight. So obviously we've got a waxing moon in the sky nowadays. So it's not necessarily the best night to get out and look at dim Messier objects, but we're not coming back for another 5 weeks or so. So
September 13th. So we do have almost 2 months.
We've got one in August.
1 August, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think somewhere around the middle of August we've got another session. So you'll have plenty of time to fit these in between now and then. So let me just bring up my Messier objects list here.
So hopefully when everybody's traveling to their dark sky preserves, as we all love to do in the summer, you will have this list in hand. We can only hope.
Right. So, now that we're into the July and then we'll be into the August, we get some of the real Messier all-star objects. I mean, the showstoppers, the one we really, really love to look at.
First behind me.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm going to suggest though is I'm going to focus on some of the more southerly, the lower in the sky ones, and you'll see here from Stellarium that we've got July 5th. Really, they're going to be highest in the south, kind of at midnight to maybe 1 a.m. this week, and then as each week passes from here, they'll reach that point about half an hour earlier than that with each week that we pass. But assume for now that you're going to get them when they're kind of at their highest, when they're over the southern horizon. So the first one I've got on my list is Messier 6, otherwise known as the butterfly cluster. This is a large and relatively loose open cluster. It shares the sky with Messier 7, which we'll come to in a second here. You should be able to see this in any size of a telescope. Binoculars, you should have no trouble as long as the air is pretty transparent. We're talking about low to the sky, so you're looking through lots of air, so you do need that transparency to see it. So it is rather low for us Canadians, especially those of us that are viewing from the prairies where things are even lower in the sky than they are in Eastern Canada. It's located, so I noted here that's located halfway along the line between, we need to get to know the teapot here. So we'll just set the stage for a minute here with the teapot. We've got the bottom of the teapot, we've got their handle on the east, the pointy lid, and the spout on the west. So bear that in mind. And what I'm going to be pointing to a lot of these stars here as we go. So the way to find M6, if you're not too sure, is you can start at Caus Media, which is where the lid meets the spout, and extend the line over towards sort of the neck of Scorpius, and Messier 6 is almost halfway along that line. So that makes it pretty easy to find. And it's also above the double stars, which are the stingers of the Scorpion as well. So you can do it that way. In a telescope, let me just pick this up and go to the Dobsonian telescope view. So this is a magnification of about 35 power. So you can see it's nice and sparse. Lots of nice little blue stars in it. You're going to notice one star is not like the others. And that's this little star named BM Scorpii. So this is kind of a K-class star, whereas the others are more bluish. Do note the star patterns in the cluster. See if you can see the butterfly shape out of it. And fun fact, this one is the closest Messier object to the center of the galaxy in angular degrees. So not in physical space, but in angular degrees. So the galactic center is just above the spout of the teapot here, and it's actually the minimum distance away from that. All right, M7 is up next. So Messier 7 is, you can see already, it's huge. It's Ptolemy's cluster. It's been known since antiquity as a bright little patch of stars in the sky. It's the southernmost Messier in Messier's list. So it's the one that's going to be the most challenge for the clearance above the southern horizon. I've been able to see this with unaided eyes, so definitely binoculars too. In your telescope, don't power the magnification up too high because it's really big. I think it's, what is it? Almost three times the diameter of the moon, the cluster in size. And again, you can use the star Caus Australis, so the base of the peak, and draw a line down to Shaula. So if you do that, you can see it just sits, a finger's width or a thumb width above the midpoint of the line between those two stars. So it's pretty easy to find as well. All right, that's M6, that's M7. Oh, and by the way, if you want to see it in a telescope, it starts to really be sparse if you magnify it too much. All right, next up is Messier 8. Messier 8, we're going to go up a little higher, so this will be a little bit easier. And this is one of the real celestial showpieces. This is better known as the Lagoon Nebula. So it's a bright emission nebula. It's fairly large. It's about triple the moon's diameter in the sky. So it's fairly wide. You should be able to see it as a bright patch with your unaided eyes on a nice, dark, clear night. And definitely you can pick it up in binoculars as well, and then any size of telescope. It's located above and between the teapot peak of the lid and the spout. Or let's see, I think I said you can double the line from Nunkie. So let me just find Nunkie. So Nunkie is the top of the handle of the teapot. So if you draw a line from Nunkie to the teapot lid and just double that, you're going to end up at the Lagoon Nebula. You should be able to see in a bigger telescope, you can look for internal structures. You can see there are darker lanes of dust and gas. You can see these so-called Bok globules. These are sort of little comet-like tadpole sort of features in a bigger telescope or in an image. And those are basically coalescing regions where the stars are beginning to form. I noted that if I used an oxygen 3 filter or a UHC filter, that it even got bigger. So that's something that you really want to put on that if you have it. You'll also may want to notice the internal star cluster inside. That's NGC 6544 is the star cluster that's inside. And there's a pattern called the hourglass, which is sort of revealed in the brighter, sort of central, most bright section of the nebula, the glowing nebula. So look for that one as well. All right, now we have just above that, we've got Messier 20. Messier 20 is the famous Trifid Nebula. So this is, as you can see, quite a bit smaller, quite a bit less intense. So you're probably going to need binoculars for sure. Maybe you'll get them in binoculars on a good night. And definitely you want to use any size of a telescope. And again, this one is so called because it's got the lobes of gas divided by these dark dust lanes, which splits it into lobes, at least 3 lobes, maybe even 4. You've got a combination of the pinkish color here is from emission and then the blue from the reflection nebula. So it's also a Vandenberg object. It should be. I don't see the Vandenberg, but maybe not. Let's see what else. We've got, you can use nebula filters, but the nebula filters won't brighten the reflection nebula side. I should have mentioned when we were talking about Vandenberg, because reflection nebulas are reflecting starlight, then filters that brighten emission nebulas and darken the stars will also darken reflection nebulas. So those won't help. Let's see what else we have here. To find it, you can use, M8 if you want to do it that way, or let's see, you can look for the line from this star. So you can take Namasadira through the peak of the teapot lid and just sort of double that, and that gets you in the same neighborhood as well.
For people who are, I was going to say, for the Lagoon and the Trifid Nebula, we also, if you're interested in editing or playing around with data, there's free data sets on skynews.ca to learn. I find when I edit the data, I start to notice more details in the actual object itself.
Yeah, and these are great candidates for sketching at the eyepiece as well. Try to capture their shapes and their internal structures. In the Trifid, when you're looking at it, pay attention to the stars inside. There's a little grouping of stars in the center, and they're kind of like a little mini trapezium, like in the Orion Nebula. that's kind of a neat feature to pick up as well. And you'll probably end up putting both of these objects in the same field of view, 20 and 21. So we'll go to 21 next. Oh, by the way, let's just look at 20 in the eyepiece view. So that gives you an idea of the size of it at 35x.
I've also noticed sometimes too in the wider astrophotography, people can sometimes get both the lagoon and the Trifid in the same.
Yep.
Yeah. So you might see those together if you look them up online. I have a question from myself. So I noticed you doing the line from the top of the teapot, but from Polis, that star here, how far, if we just kind of found that star, how hard would it be just to aim it at that general area where M8, we see M8, M20, M21 would be?
Yeah, let me put on binoculars. I'll put a circle on for binoculars just to give a sense of scale. So there you go there. So if you put the star Polis in the upper left corner of the binocular, you should capture all three of these in the rest of the field. So we're talking about, I think it's what, about 4 degrees? 2.5. 2.5 to M20 and 21, and about almost 4 degrees to M8. Yeah, so that's a great way of doing it.
I usually recommend people when they're looking for asterism / constellation for the summer sky is to find the Scorpius and the teapot, and particularly the top of the teapot has a lot of stuff. So if you get good at that, you'll be able to find a lot of these. And
the bottom of the teapot, spoiler alert, we'll get there in a minute. Okay. Messier 21 is up next. So Messier 21 is an open cluster. You might see the name Webb's Cross associated with this, but there's kind of a twist to that name. This one basically shares the eyepiece with M20. So when you found one, you found the other. You want to see this. So this one you should be able to see in binoculars, any size of a telescope. And the more aperture you have, the more stars you're going to pick up, because this one is a mixture of a collection of brighter stars and then dimmer stars beyond and between. So you'll be able to pick more stars up as you go. Try to make note when you're logging open clusters, how many stars you estimate there might be, and maybe the ratio between bright and dim, that kind of thing. Those are great features to mention. Let's see, the Webb's Cross name. So the Webb's Cross name actually refers to these sort of magnitude 6 and 7 stars between the two deep sky objects. So sort of there's a star here, 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 here. It kind of makes an upside down crucifix, that sort of thing. And if you put, let's say, this one, let's do a telescope view, so that I can sort of see the cross, sort of a crooked cross shape, inverted in the reflector telescope view. So that's what really the Webb's Cross is referring to. All right, Messier 28. So Messier 28, we're gonna dash down towards the peak of the teapot. So Messier 28 and Messier 22 sit flank either side of that. So Messier 28 is a small, but it's an easy to find because it sits so close to Caus Borealis, the star at the top of the teapot. You can see this one in binoculars, any size of a telescope. It's just really a finger's width between the peak of the teapot lid and the globular cluster, so that makes that easy. When you're looking at it, you want to look for, here's the same view at 35x. You can see it's pretty tame, pretty faint, but it should stand out. There's a bright field star here to the west of it that you can pick up. And then, as I said, you're going to look for, when you're looking at these globular clusters, as we talked about a few weeks ago, want to look for the density profile. Is the core concentrated? Is the core loose? How long does it take for the stars to kind of spread out? All those kind of features. You want to look for the shape of it, that kind of thing. This one's about 17,900 light years away. So, and there is another little globular cluster just to its east. So let's see if I can pick that one up. Let's see. There should be NGC 6638 nearby. Yeah. So there's another little globular cluster, not a very bright one, just on the opposite side of the star from M28. All right, M22. M22 is an easy one. It's huge. It's bright. It's one of the best globular clusters in the sky. In fact, if it weren't sort of extincted by being so low in the sky, it would definitely be rival M13 as a summer favorite. It's sitting here, easy to find. It's just to the upper left of Caus Borealis. So that makes it easy. You can see it, as I said, naked eye, any type of telescope, binoculars, and you want to look for its density profile. You want to note its shape. So it's actually a little bit egg-shaped, and there are some streams of stars extending around it, that kind of thing. So make note of features like that when you're looking at it. Okay, now 3 more. And these are along the bottom of the teapot. So there's actually a kind of an alley, a globular cluster alleyway sitting here across the bottom of the teapot. 3 Messiers, and there are actually even some other globular clusters in addition. I don't have the symbols marked for them right now. So let's start with Messier 69. So Messier 69 is the most westerly of the trio at the bottom of the teapot. Again, it doesn't get very high for Canadians, unfortunately. When it's culminating, though, you should be able to see it with your binoculars, but really telescope is the way you want to go. If you've got a telescope, you're going to need that to kind of really see the core and get the details in there. It needs a good deal of magnification to get those details. There's an idea of it. It's located about 2 finger widths, okay, to the upper left of Caus Australis, which is the sort of base of the spout of the teapot, and on the line towards the opposite corner. So you're sort of heading in the opposite corner. And you're going to, the other way you can look for it is if you can find Caus Australis and look for a couple of medium bright stars sitting here in the corner of the teapot, and it's right above those. So that's another way you can find it. This one's about 29,700 light years away. All right, next up we have Messier 70. This one's easy because it's almost exactly halfway between Caus Australis and Acela. So you can just pop your finder in the middle of the 2 of them. This is actually, though, the dimmest of the trio. So you can see its symbol is a little bit smaller. And just turn off the symbol, you can get an idea of it. Not as large, it's a little more concentrated. You can get it with binoculars when it's culminating, but really it's a telescope target. Let's see, you need a bigger aperture to sort of expand the core or resolve the core in any way. And again, this one's got some shape to it as well that you want to take a look at. And here's the view at 35x, fairly small. And last up here, we've got Messier 54. Messier 54 is the easternmost of the trio. It's far. It's the farthest globular cluster in Messier's catalog. It's 87,400 light years away. And if it were as close as some of these others, it would be enormous in the sky. So it's a real mammoth one. Possibly it doesn't even belong to the Milky Way. It probably belongs to one of the Milky Way's dwarf galaxies. So it'd be considered to be extragalactic in that sense. There's evidence that it may have a central black hole inside it. So that's fun. Again, you can kind of just turn your gaze a couple of fingers widths to the right, to the west of Acela in the corner of the teapot, and just look for it that way. It should be pretty easy to pick up. Because it's so far away, though, it really is hard to resolve any of its stars. So at low magnification, you can see here, it's just a small smudge, a small fuzzy star. So you really want to crank up the magnification on this one if you're taking a look at it. And I think that's it. Good luck with those, everybody.
At least we only really have to look at one area in the sky. So once we find the teapot, we're in this, as long as we stay within that constellation boundary, we'll see most of them.
Yeah. Next time up, we're going to venture to the north and catch this group that's sitting up to the north of the T.
So if you want to skip ahead. Does anybody have any questions about those Messier objects or anything we've talked about today? We will be posting the Messier minutes notes. They will be coming shortly after the end of this when we're done here. And they'll be on the regular ras.ca/Messier/Messier-minutes.
Perfect. Well, hope everybody gets some clear skies and some dark skies. The moon is back now, but it'll disappear again before long. And we'll pick up some nice couple of weeks of dark skies before we're back. So good luck with that.
And look at the moon while it's up there right now. Always say there's so many things to look up on the moon. Try to find those Canadian targets we talked about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so when are we back next, Chris?
I think we're back.
You have to update the question calendar online.
We're back on August 16th.
August 16th. Okay, we'll post that on the website and what we're going to be doing. So if you're interested,
I think we can do the planets then.
Yeah, the bright planets in the sky. Perfect. Yeah, so keep track. As you know, our summer schedule is a little laid back because we want to get out, have a vacation, do some stargazing on our own in nice weather, and we hope you all get the chance to do it as well. So keep watch on the ras.ca/insiders guide, and the Zoom is updated to only give you notifications for those days that we will be doing it. So thank you all. Hope you get, as you said, clear skies and get to see some of the Messiers and targets we've seen today.
Yeah, keep looking up. Unless you're looking to the south, then you're looking a little bit down, but that's okay.